Brian Dutcher, head coach of the Aztecs, back with us right now on the home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. And Dutch, first of all, we always appreciate it. And we know you're only a week into your offseason. It's hard to believe that a week ago tonight was the first 4 in Dayton, and you've talked about going from coach to general manager this time of year. So what has this week been like? We know the portal's open. We've seen the news, obviously, on Nick Boyd and Magoon Guath. What is it like in your seat in this new era, going from coach to GM? And thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, John, for having me. It's the new normal, and you can't overreact to it. You got to know that it's happening to every team everywhere in the country. And the Mountain West is not exempt to it. Nick Davidson in the portal, Donovan Dent in Washington from New Mexico in the portal, Boyd and Guath in the portal. It's what it is. The starting point guard from North Carolina, who we just played in the portal. And as soon as these Sweet 16 teams are done, they'll have kids in the portal. And so is it ideal for college basketball? No, probably not. But is it what is normal at this time? Yes, it is.
I wanted to ask about Nick Boyd. We had Nick on our show multiple times this year, Dutch, and I remember we had him on before your guys' run in March Madness, where I asked him, are you going to return next year? What's your thinking? And a lot of times it was kind of down the path of he was returning. Like there was a lot of wheeze when Nick Boyd was talking about with his decision for next year staying here with the Aztecs, and he even mentioned at his press conference at in Dayton that we'll be back. And so when he came to you and he said he was entering the transfer portal, at any point did you feel a little misled by Nick or surprised, or what was your first initial reaction when Nick said he was entering the portal to you?
I've been doing it long enough where nothing surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
I was intending to have Nick back next year. I thought he would be back. But when all of a sudden you have a chance to maybe make more money playing basketball in 1 year than you will the rest of your career, then you say, well, okay, I understand why he may have left. So it had nothing to do with their culture, nothing to do with him loving San Diego State. But financially, he may not be able to play for this amount of money the rest of his career. And so he has a number that he thinks he's going to get. Obviously, people had been monitoring it, and when the season ended, they brought him some numbers, and he obviously felt they were too good to turn down.
Brian Dutcher, head coach of the Aztecs, with us right now on John and Jim. We'll get into the dollars and cents of this world that we're in with Portal and NIL and the matching campaign going on with Mesa as well. I mentioned the fact that you kind of go from coach to GM, and you've touched on that. Are we at a point, and we've seen it in college athletics, we've seen it in basketball. I think Sean Lewis just hired a GM in football. Are we at a point where a general manager is becoming a prerequisite or a necessity for a program or not?
I think the finances are more important than the general manager.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be the GM of the Dodgers, and I'll find a way to put a team together. The GM's important, but you got to have some finances to get it done. But that's not everything, John. I try to tell people, just because some of these guys run around in the NBA and they got NBA logos, doesn't mean they know a player if he bit him in the butt. At some level, you still have to evaluate talent. You have to put a team together. You have to put a culture together in order to win. And so I think we're good at all those things. I have a coaching staff that knows how to evaluate talent, that knows how to put a team together. Once we get them here, we know what it takes to win. And the rosters are just flipping more often than we're used to. But everybody's dealing with it, and I think we've dealt with it pretty well. A year ago, we lost 92% of our scoring, 90% of our minutes, and yet we're in the NCAA tournament again. And so we're good at what we do. Do we like it all the time? No, absolutely not. But are we good at it? Yes, we are.
Do you feel like it's gotten a little bit out of hand here with the NIL and the portal?
I think players are deserving of some of the money they're getting. Do I think it's exorbitant and too much? Yes. And that's why some of these lawsuits are working their way through. I think there'll be some leveling, some, I don't know if you would say salary cap, but some type of salary cap that'll be put into place where we're just not throwing enormous sums of money at everybody, And it's like the portal. The first week, everybody in the portal thinks they're going to get this dollar figure. And guys that panic overpay some of these guys. And then all of a sudden next week will go by and the dollars will drop. And then at the end, if you don't have a roster, the dollars will go up again. And so there's even a cycle to this. Everybody thinks they're going to get a certain amount of money. Everybody in the portal thinks they're going to get a scholarship. But at the end of the day, there'll be 20% of them that have given up a scholarship and get nothing. And so there's a gamble involved with it too.
That's a really interesting point. Brian Dutcher with us right now in the home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. I'm sure you have a feel for the remainder of your roster that you currently have, but do you truly know until the portal closes? And how do you address needs while the portal is open?
Yeah, we're evaluating every day. We're watching tape on 800 kids. We know what our needs are. I feel like I've already got a kid added. I don't want to say anything yet. I got another kid visiting, and so we're proactive. We're working, and so things have to happen. We have to continue to evaluate the pieces we need. I feel as if the rest of the team, as we sit here now, is intact, but I'm not naive enough to know that they're not getting calls and getting feelers all the time as to if this was available, would you leave? And so even though they're not in the portal, I know that there's poaching going on with every school in the country.
When Magoon Gwath told you that he was entering the portal, was that something that you were bracing for already?
We had a feeling it could happen, you know. But with that being said, I still feel like Magoon loves San Diego State, and if the finances were equal, would remain at San Diego State. But there are things that work all the time. You're making decisions not only for yourself but your family, and he wanted to go out there and see what was available to him.
Brian Dutcher with us right now on John and Jim. Dutch, I feel like when you get into off seasons, you obviously look back at a season and see what went well and areas you would improve in, but you typically don't overreact to any one game, right? Like you look at your result against UNC a week ago tonight in Dayton. How much of your offseason is about addressing what happened in Dayton as opposed to just putting your team together and getting yourself in a position to get back to the NCAA tournament?
No, we're going to use that as motivation for next year.
Mm-hmm.
That we had a wonderful year. We had a bad finish to a wonderful year. You know, to replace what we replaced and win 21 games and make it to the NCAA tournament. Teams go for years and don't go to the NCAA tournament, decades and don't go.
Yeah.
And these are good teams, and there are teams that have national championship banners hanging in the arenas that can't make the field. And so we don't want to be naive enough to know that what we're doing is not easy. It's hard. And we take great pride in what we're doing at San Diego State. But we also know that having played for a national championship, that has to be the goal. And we can't have the kind of season. And the comment I made is, you know, we stumbled a lot of games this year where we got down to San Jose and to Wyoming. But North Carolina is not San Jose or Wyoming. That we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We can't get down in games that we're capable of playing better in. And when we play a team that we get down to that's really good, then we can't fight our way back, even as hard as we fight. And so there are always are lessons to be learned, especially with the young team we had last year. So we'll use that game against North Carolina as motivation, as fuel to get us ready for the following year.
Dutch, I don't know if you saw this take, probably not, but the take of the NIL is killing the Cinderella. Now, me and John don't view San Diego State as a mid-major. You guys always try to strive to be better than and also be consistently in the tournament every single year. But what do you make of that take that the NIL is killing the Cinderella in March Madness?
I don't think so. I don't feel as if we put the team together we want to put together, continue to work hard, that we will have a chance to advance in that tournament again. And if you believe otherwise, it'll never happen. So I believe we can do it. And we're not replacing an entire roster. You look at a Drake, the year they replaced an entire roster.
Right.
Yeah.
An entire roster. And then you take encouragement from Colorado State, New Mexico, advancing past the first round and actually having a chance in their second game to advance. And so the Mountain West is a good basketball conference, and San Diego State is a good basketball team.
Dutch, I've had a lot of people on social media ask me this, and I feel as if this has been short-sighted, but I want to hear from you. People have said, is San Diego State going to change its recruiting strategy with prep players, high school players, because someone like Magoon Gwath only spent 1 year playing for you? Now, you redshirted him, and then, of course, he was on the floor for one season. But Does one player like Magoon entering the portal change any type of philosophy for you when it comes to high school recruiting or not?
No. I mean, we're going to recruit the best players that we think fit our style of play, that are about the right things, that want to win, that want to develop, that want to get better. Those are the kind of kids we've won with. And so, and that people have to understand, too, we have players in our program right now that could leave in a heartbeat for more money. But they choose to remain here because they love it here. They love the culture. They love the coaching. And they think at the end this was a better choice to stay, even though there is more money out there for them. So don't get soured that everybody just chases money. We all know that's not the case, and that's with adults too. Sometimes we have opportunities to take jobs for more money. But we love where we are. We love what we're doing. And sometimes all that money does not equate happiness or future prospects for yourself.
Reese Waters obviously didn't play this season, but he has stated that he will be returning next year. How nice is it knowing that, you know, you have a guy like Reese who can get a bucket at any moment for you, returning next year as a foundation for next year's team?
Yeah, we've got a good base coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just looking to add a piece or two, you know. So some of the, it's a year ago. Let's just use Washington as an example. They get the player of the year from the Mountain West to transfer to Washington with Sprinkle. They pay him an exorbitant amount of money, and they finish in last place. So money does not equate success, and so at some level you have to put a team together. Now, I'm not saying that Washington is not going to put a team together. Obviously, Sprinkle's a good coach, but it's not one piece. It's multiple pieces. It's not one player. You have to have a team. And so this is not an individual sport. And so if we lose a player, that we'd like to have, we'd like to have in the program. But this is a team sport, and we just feel we will put enough pieces together to have another competitive basketball team at San Diego State that aspires to greatness.
Dutch, can you speak on the importance of the collective? To your point, there's programs out there that might have been top 5 in NIL spending that didn't make the NCAA tournament. I'm not sure if Washington would qualify, but Indiana wasn't in the NCAA tournament. Kansas State spent a lot in NIL. They were not in the NCAA tournament. There's no assurance that by spending you're going to win, but obviously the dollars do matter to some extent. Mesa has this matching campaign going on right now, I think through the end of the month. For our listeners that aren't aware with it, that don't understand the complexities of it, how important is that matching campaign for retaining this roster and adding to it for next year?
It's everything. It's everything. We have to be competitive financially. And then you have to trust we're going to make the right decisions, that we are not going to spoil our roster, that we want kids that are about the right things. And the last thing we talk about is NIL money. We talk about fit, talk about culture, and if all those match, now we can talk about NIL money. But we can't do it with no NIL money. We have to continue to raise and try to be competitive. And it's harder. The Power 4 conferences have more than we have. That doesn't mean their fan bases are more passionate, that their facilities are better, but they have more TV money, they have more donor money, and we have to stay competitive. We can't do it for free. So we know we're not going to ever have as much as some of them, but we have to have enough where they trust in us to put a really good team together that will beat those teams because of the work we do and the finances we do have.
Final one for me, Dutch. Usually when a player enters the portal, more often than not, that player is gone. And rarely do you see players entering the portal returning back to the team that they just entered the portal from. Would there be a situation where you would welcome back players that have entered the portal for you, or how do you view that?
Yeah, absolutely. But it can't be a long timeline. It can't be like a month from now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because if we're doing our job, a month from now, we've already secured our roster. We've given out whatever money that player might have got to other people. And so, yes, there's always an opportunity to return to the program. But it can't be a decision that lingers for a month or more because financially we don't have a bottomless pit of money to wait for a player. So obviously I would love to have that, but we don't. So any money people give to help us retain players, to help us be able to wait on players is immeasurably important.
Again, matching campaign going on right now at mesa-aztecs.org. That's mesa-aztecs.org. Just, Dutch, while we have you briefly on your current roster, when does the work begin? Like that development process. Obviously, you get back on the floor as a team in July. It's amazing how this has essentially become a year-round sport. But what is the work that goes on from this point until you get back on the floor as a team for some of these players? Because you got this younger unit where you played 6 out of maybe 9 or 10 players in your rotation that were underclassmen. What type of development goes on now before you get back on the floor in July?
Yeah, we're shut down for a while, John, because let them rest their legs, get their minds fresh. They go on spring break Friday, the university does. So they'll get away for a week, and then we'll get them back, and we'll slowly start getting them back in the weight room, get them individual workouts, and start building next year's team. And we have a hungry bunch. And so they're excited to compete for a Mountain West title, to qualify for another NCAA tournament, and make that deep run that we've all become spoiled with here at San Diego State.
No doubt about it. Have you had time to be a grandfather again? Because I know you just welcomed a 3rd grandchild. Obviously, Aaron and Grayson having another child, so congratulations in order. Have you had time to do that, or are you watching film with your grandchildren?
Well, I'm watching a Disney Channel with my grandchildren, but when they're sleeping or not around, I'm watching film. So
I love it.
This portal never ends, and so we are doing a good job. Trust me, we have pieces that we're pursuing, some that I feel like we have in place already, but have to do a little crossing the T's, dotting of the I's. But we are building a team that everyone's going to get behind and be excited about. And, nobody wants to see a player leave, but it's like I said, you have to just get over it. You have to move forward. If I sat there and cried about it, I wouldn't be doing my job to help build a team for next year. And that's what I'm here to do. With my coaching staff, we are building a team for next year.
And again, you can help Mesa-Aztecs.org. That matching campaign going on now through the end of March. Dutch, we appreciate you taking time for us. Get back to the film and the grandkids and the roster.
Get back to the Disney Channel.
Yeah, get back to the Disney Channel. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
All right, we're going to react to that. On the other side, stay with us. It's John and Jim.